This is embroidered card string art with Mayra Dallape and is now being recorded.
Hi there, everybody. For you who are here watching my class, again, my name is Mayra Dallape. For anybody who is here that is familiar with the SCA, my name is also the Honorable Lady Madalena. And the SCA, for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, is a medieval living history group. So if you're at all interested in that, you happen to be a bit of a history buff, then please, by all means, go ahead and query into February. There will be people there who can lead you to where you might want to become more involved in your area. But regardless, this is not why we're here. We're here to do an embroidered card. And this is a card that I came up with based on, I'm more of a scrapbooker. I'm not so much a stringy person. But when Debbie came to me seeing if I might be willing, or able to teach a class, it just so happened that I had received the die that cuts this out. So when I go, yeah, I could do this because paper is fiber, right? I think it is. And there's string, so there is still fiber. So it qualified. So I pretty much rather quickly put this card together, and I opted to use hugs as a sentiment because, as we are all aware, it's a bit of pandemonium in the world right now. We have, we've had far too much political unrest. We have a pandemic going on. And sometimes what we need to do is send somebody a hug because we can't give them a real one. So I got the idea that here we can send them a paper hug. So hence that's why I went ahead and selected hugs as the sentiment. So we are going to go ahead and embroider a paper hug. I'm going to start this class a little bit backwards. Normally I would start with the embroidery, but I'm allowing a little bit of time for a student who was going to come in late to get here. So I'm going to start with the assembly of the paper part first, and then we will mark where the embroidery started, and it will be added as part of the description. So if you want to do it the other way and embroider first and then do the rest, then you'll know where to start the video and then come back and do this. But I'm going to go ahead and go there. Those of you who got a kit, or your kit will have come, let me set this aside because it's a sample card, I'm gonna set this aside, will have gotten 3 cards. I went ahead and included 3 cards for you to make, plus all what I call guma flotchies, which is just the letters and the little flowers. I packaged them all separately. You will have gotten a needle, a number size 24 embroidery needle, and then 2 skeins of DMC embroidery floss, numbers 890 and 814. So that's what we're going to do the embroidery with, but I'm going to set this all aside, and I'm going to go ahead and just keep one of these packages, and we're going to go ahead and start by assembling all these little letters together. It's a bit messy work, which is why I'm pulling this little green mat over here, because how I do gluing is a little bit, I don't know if it's kosher or conventional, but it's what works for me. But we're just going to make a hot mess of all of these little letters real quick, but I'm going to separate them out. And you're going to have, I have the gold letters, but what isn't as readily evident from the card is that they are stacked. So I will have 2 white letters or cream colored letters, and then I have the gold. I do that. What we're going to do is glue them stacked together because that'll dimensionalize them. It brings them up so that they project off, stick up from the cards, and makes it a little bit more prominent. It is a very well-known scrapbooking technique. I'm explaining it to you because I'm assuming that nobody here scrapbooks. So I am the paper person. So this is just something that I notoriously do with anytime I use alphabets or whenever I want to make something stand out. I will cut several of them and then stack them. So I'm just going to take it a moment and stacking all my letters, and then I'm going to send all of this mess over here to the side. We're not dealing with it right now. How I do this is you can have 1 or 2 options. You can, if anybody has little tiny glue bottles like this that have a little needle opening, they're great and wonderful to write on, literally on a small surface. I always keep them with a pin in it so that the glue doesn't dry. And we could just write on the back of it. But not everybody has these, and I don't always use that method because I don't like to. What I notoriously do is I will just make a puddle of glue, and I will grab my handy dandy tweezers. These are some I bought from scrapbooking, but any tweezers, you can literally use your eyebrow tweezers to do this. and I will dip them in and then stack them that way. And that works to be much easier. What I believe I recommended in the class, I use scrapbooking glue. So I use Barely Art is my favorite glue, but you have to, it's a specialty glue you have to buy. It's not like you can run the Michaels or Hobby Lobby and get it. What I recommended, which works just as well if you're just wanting to do this, is Elmer's Craft Bond tacky glue. When you work with paper, you want to use a tacky glue, not necessarily Elmer's like the white glue like you get from school, because that will tend to warp the paper. This is a little bit drier, a little bit thicker, so and so it doesn't warp your paper, which is you go to a trouble to make something this pretty, you don't want it warped because your glue is wet. So for the purposes of this class, I'm going to go ahead and use this because I told you guys you could. So I'm going to stand by what I said. But what I do in order to glue these down is, and you can, let me move, I'm going to bring this more a little bit center so you can see. I just literally squirt a bunch of this glue on, and this is just a silicone mat. You can use a piece of wax paper. You can use a plate. Whatever I don't advise. Normally I have a glass mat underneath me, but I took it out for the class because it glares. And I figured it'd be too confusing. So I just wanted to make it easy. So we're going to grab our letters. And I'm just going to, one is the bottom, and I'm just going to grab the other one. And literally, this is what I do. I just dip it into the glue. I'm going to go ahead and grab it. And then all we have to do is align just one corner of it. It literally falls in upon itself. So it's not a lot. It's not very difficult. And on my sample, I actually think I did one of them came out of alignment. And what I tell people, if it's imperfect, it's okay. It is the beauty of a handcrafted item. Don't worry about it. You're giving somebody a handcrafted item. In theory, if you're going to the effort of giving somebody a handmade card, you have a level of appreciation, or you think they will. And the alternative, what I tell people is if the person is unappreciative and starts calling out the errors in or the defects, I just say punch them in the nose and take your card back. I know that's an act of violence, and there you go. But I'm good with that, because then they were so obviously undeserving of a card that you put in a lot of effort in. But see, that's how quickly it comes together. The letters come together by themselves just apart. They don't need us. We'd like to think they do, but they don't. It is really just it's just minutes of work, but it looks, putting in this little tiny bit of effort is really so worth it, and it just makes all the difference. And this is how I do it quickly, because again, you can do it, squirting glue on this, but there you go. It's more trouble. I think this goes just as quickly. And when you're using a glue like this, it's not, there are some glues that are faster drying than others. I like using this one or the other glue I showed you, which is it's available online. You can find it anywhere. Amazon carries it, Barely Art. But it gives you squiggle time, is what I call it. It gives you time to play and maneuver it into place. If you use a faster drying glue, it might be a little less forgiving, and that's when you do something like I just did, which is put the HM upside down. Because of course I never make a mistake, not on camera. Actually, I make them all on camera. When I make up a sample for a class, they come out perfectly. I can slam them together. Yay, I've got this. And the minute I'm on camera demonstrating, it's all over. I make every mistake that can come into mind. So as you work your card, your project, please do not ever feel like, I just made a dumb mistake. Trust me, I have made it already for you. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes of any project that we as artisans will tend to beat ourselves up and say, and no, somebody's done it already. Trust me, I have, and repeatedly, all the time, and with multiple witnesses. So it just is. But it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's part of the fun. And I just laugh at myself, and it's part of my my comedy. I tell people on YouTube, but I have a YouTube channel. It's the Mad Scrapper with 2 D's. I tell everybody we're all a little, that's my ending to all my videos. We're all a little mad here. And then I just tell them to scrap the madness. So they know for the most part that they're dealing with a crazy person. So if they don't want to listen to a crazy person, then they can go watch somebody else's YouTube channel. Otherwise, they get to watch me. And now you guys are stuck with me. I'm so sorry. And now see, my glue is drying up a little bit. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm moving my mat a little bit because I could add glue there, but it's tacky in some parts and then it just becomes difficult. We end up is with a lot of little stringies and what I call floofles, and you don't want to have to deal with that. So you might as well just add a new fresh puddle. Or what I'll do in a second, I just wanted to get the U done real quick, and I'm going to clean the mat. This is one of the things what I love about silicone mats, and I'm pretty sure you can readily find these on Amazon if you just do silicone mats. Is that they clean so easily. I use this when I do a mixed media project. Not that I'm a mixed media maven. I'm not. I like to think I am. I own far too much mixed media stuff that just sits there, looks pretty. I'm a craft hoarder. I tell people I shop much faster than I craft. So I have a great hoard. But let me now, hang on, let me dip under my desk 1 second, and we'll grab an alcohol cleaning wipe, just any wet wipe, a diaper wipe, any kind of wipe will work. I just happen to have this very large canister of, alcohol sanitary wipes that my husband got from work and brought them to me when the pandemic started, and I've still not used it all up. But I just grabbed that.
When you get finished cleaning the mat, your camera has slipped.
Oops. Okay. Thank you. Well, we'll do that real quick. 1 second. Rude.
There you go.
Sorry for that, folks. Okay. And this will happen from time to time. Okay.
Don't worry.
And there we go. So I just cleaned it up, and I'll just grab now a microfiber towel. And I now have a new cleaning surface to work with. So now I have all of my hugs, all my letters stacked together. They're all ready. So now they're ready for us to stick the flowers or to adhere the flowers on. So I'm going to bring back the sample because we're going to use that as a guide. And I just realized for some reason the H doesn't have a flower. It used to have a flower there. It should be a burgundy flower. So somewhere along the way that flower fell off. So we will add it back in. It's okay. So now what you're going to want to grab, we'll set these aside for a second. And we're going to grab our green stems. So this one, you're going to grab a long one, which will have the 3 leaves. That one belongs with the H. Now we're going to look for your U, you're going to flip these, and you'll be able to tell that these are your green stems, for those of you that bought the kit, they're what's the word I'm looking for? The paper has texture on it. So texture side up. So we're not using that one. You got some extras. So this one's in the wrong direction, but this one is. So I'm going to set this aside because this one's going to be our U. And now I am going to grab the one that I rejected because that's our G. And then I need a friend. And that's going to be for our S. Now in this card, again, because what I tell people is there are truly no mistakes. There are just opportunities for creativity. In this case, I realized at some point that I glued my flowers in wrong. The evil plan was it to be burgundy white. And then after I did the G, I realized that I had 2 whites, and I'm like, okay, genius. What are you going to do now? And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do burgundy. So for anybody, now you all know my secret. But to anybody else, they'll just think, oh, look, what a cool card. They do not know that it was a mistake because it just became a creative moment. But I'm going to go ahead and do it the way I'd originally planned. So now when you want to go through your flowers, there are 2 types of flowers. One of them has, if you can see, tiny little petals here. And then other ones are very smooth. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to alternate the flowers. I'm just going to use the tweezers to grab them. And we're going to find then another. And then what we're going to do, because I cut plenty, so that we can alternate also the petals. So and here, I mean, you can either do oops, that's the wrong color. See, there I am. I'm doing it again. I'm going to grab a petally one. You can either alternate the colors, or you can alternate the petals. Actually, no, why am I not alternating the petals? Hello, never mind. Don't listen to me. The instructor doesn't necessarily know what she's doing. She actually can alternate the petals. Sometimes, folks, I just drown in a glass of water. There we go. So we've alternated the colors, and then we've alternated the petals. Now, here's where we're going to use another. This is now a smaller. I'm going to set this aside so I don't get glue on it. And I want you to be able to see the puddle, so we'll set it up here. I just need a small puddle here. I am going to grab my stem and I'm going to move it. I'm just going to dip this part. You're only dipping the top part of this. And then turn your flower however you need to make it work. I tend to work at angles. I do not know why I can't work straight up and down. I know I don't know, it makes me a twisted sister. What does it mean? But I know there's something beyond that, but that's all you're going to do. It doesn't have to be perfect. Flowers are not exactly perfect, or they are. If anybody's watched the movie The Last Samurai, that's one of the lines in the movies, that the main samurai is looking for the perfect cherry blossom, and in the end, and when he's dying, he realizes they are all perfect. So in this respect, all our flowers are perfect in their own little way. But this, again, this is just very easy. Just take your time. If I can do it while I am talking, trust me, you can do this too. But all we're going to do is just set these little petals down, the little flower pieces down, one on top of each other on the petal. Just grab a little bit from the puddle. Whoop. I'm going to turn this one around a little tiny bit, or not, and I'm just going to now work straight, which is how I don't like to work, but there you go. And whoops. See, that's why. I don't know why. It's suddenly a psychological thing. But there we go. I've got all my flowers at least now assembled. And this glue does dry rather quickly. Not, like lightning, but just enough to give me the play time. But I can already, manipulate it. And it dries clear, so you can see the little white stuff. What I will sometimes do is just peel it off, but quite frankly, it dries clear. So you might see a bit of a shiny bit, which is why I like working with the other glue, the Barely Art, because it dries matte. So even when you make a mess of things, you won't be able to see it unless you made a mess on a shiny and now suddenly there isn't a shiny. Yeah, so sometimes I feel like it's a no-win situation. I'm now going to make a new little puddle of glue because I just want fresh glue. And let me make the glue come out. Today would be nice glue. Work with me. Okay, so we're going to make another puddle of glue. Now we're going to dip the stem, just the stem part of it. You don't have to grab a lot, because what we're going to do now is this is going to go, each flower will go on a letter. And you just press it down. And you just lay it down and press it down. And I got a little double of glue there, but again, it's such a tiny little speck that, trust me, it will not be noticeable in the end. So now move our H, and now we will come over to our U. And we will, I'm not getting the kind of puddle of glue that I want. And that's because I should just turn my glue bottle upside down and it'll come out the way I want it to. There we go. I'm much happier now. So now we're going to grab the curve, because we're going to put this right there in the curve of the U. So I'm going to grasp it from up here and just dip it. Just dip it in the glue a bit. And then come back here and lay it in the curve of the U. And there we go. Just press it down. So see, this is not, it looks like painstaking work. To some extent it is, but it is easy work. But you know what? We're going to throw this together in minutes. And whoever receives that will be just so impressed, like, oh my gosh, you made this. This beats a Hallmark card, hands down. In my family, because I am known to be the card maker, I'm the only one in my family. I have 3 daughters and nobody crafts. I don't know how I went wrong. But especially on my husband's side of the family, when we were still dating, I started making the cards, and they do the birthdays by quarters, and I would come with all these cards. And they were like, oh my gosh, they now look forward. Everybody's like, okay, what's the card? What's the card? Everybody, even what really surprised me was my 25-year-old nephew Guys don't get this. And he was like, oh no, I saved these. I saved these, Aunt Mayra. These are special cards. I don't throw them away. And I'm just like, and this is from, you know, a 25-year-old. Sometimes you think that young men would not get this, and he gets this, and it just really tickles me. So always know that, you know, anybody who receives this card, it's going to be, you know, you're going to touch them, and it's a way. This is how I feel. This is my way of, you know, touching people. I reach out and I send them a card, and people love getting cards no matter what. Now look, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm confessing my S is out of alignment. And, you know, but there's a good chance because it's going to be on top of the white, it's not even going to be noticeable. I notice it now. You can see it right there because it's on the blue. But my bet, I'll put money that it's going to be hidden when we do the card, when we mount it on the whiteboard. Now I'm going to grab one of my cards because I'm going to slide these over so you can see them. Look, we have a bunch of flowers left over. I did that on purpose. I didn't do it on purpose initially, but I did this on purpose now because then I said, oh, look, I can use some. So what I went ahead and did is, you can't see, I'm going to show this real quick to you in the sample, is I put some flowers on the inside just to decorate it. So I'm going to go ahead and pretty much duplicate what I did here. So I'm going to leave it right where I can see it. Let me see if I can make it so you guys can see it too. And now I'm going to be very careful because now I have letters and puddles of glue that I do not want to put cards in. Or what I can do, quite frankly, let's move my letters. Let's clean those puddles of glue and make new puddles of glue. So let me clean these up real quick. There we go. And this really, I'm amazed at how soppy wet my little alcohol wipes are. It's like, holy cow, I think I could take a bath with one of these. Okay, now let me grab, we'll put our letters, we can leave our letters there right now. I want to put this here where I can work with it. And now that tells me where I'm going to put my puddle of glue, my new puddle of glue. But before I do that, let me kind of sort of set this up. So what do I have? So we're going to do that one here. And since I did a white flower there, I'm going to pick it up. And okay, hang on, there we go. The flower is also going to have my DNA, but there you go. So let me move this over here where you guys can see. So that there, so that's this one in the corner. And then we have the 3 straight ones in theory. So, and we're not, because that's not what I had left over. So we're going to work with what I have. So actually now I'm going to lay it out to figure out what I am going to do. And actually I know what I'm going to do. We are going, again, this is, remember, I said, this is not a mistake. I did this on purpose. I'm like the cat that fell off the couch. I did it on purpose. There's no mistakes. There are just opportunities for creativity. So, and maybe we just have 2. I like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do 2 curvies and then the one little straight one. And actually, let me do this. Let me move this over so you guys, let me move my sample out of the way because it no longer applies. We don't care anymore. And we're going to go in here and I'll take that little foo-foo off. And what the heck? We have all of these flowers, so why not use them? That was my theory. So I went on a cutting spree. And apparently I didn't cut the right ones. Okay, so I think that's what we're going to do. So now we go back to, we need to glue flowers onto these. And we will do the same thing. We're going to alternate our flowers. So if we're going to do a white one there, we'll do a white one. We'll alternate the petals too. So let me make a new puddle now down here. Come on, glue. Work with me. You can do it. Yay, puddle. Okay, we have a new tacky puddle. I'm going to grab my friend here, my little leafy friend, and I just decided we're going to start with the burgundy one because it was closer. That's the genius behind that decision. I'm going to go ahead just because I tend to be just a little AR. Don't mind me. This is a little I think this is a ceramic tool actually for pottery tool, but I use it's very pointy and I can actually pull off excess glue. So I notorious, that's why I usually have it handy, and that's what its intended purpose. So see, we as scrapbookers, we steal everything from people. So we steal another art's tool, excuse me, and file out the serial numbers and call it our own. And look, it is a glue removing tool. Now I'm just going to go ahead and dip most of the flour. It doesn't have to be all, because you know, if you want, you can leave it a little, you know, so it sticks out a little bit. There is no really wrong way, no wrong in this. It is, again, the beauty of a handcrafted item. It's whatever at this point makes you happy. But mind you, I'm just working straight off, so this is how quickly it does. I mean, it gives me enough time to finish, but it glues quickly enough that I can already maneuver it, go to the next step. So we're just going to put that one down right there. Let me take that. Yeah, okay, it came off. Was able to rub it off with my finger. So we have now that little corner done, such as it is. And there we go. Now, of course, meanwhile, I have managed to move a branch into the puddle, because heaven forbid I'd be paying attention to what I'm doing. And now okay, so it'll be red, white, red. So it will be a flower. I'm trying to alternate the flowers. So this one is going to be one of these guys. The white one will be one of these guys. And I tend to I'm going with what I like. I like, interestingly enough, the ones that are rounded off and not the ones with the extra petals on them. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the one that I like because it's my card. I get to do what I want. And there you go. Oof, unless I have a request, I tend to, do whatever, makes me happy. Because it's hard. I mean, anybody who's a creative person, who's an artisan, and you all, I'm sure, experience this in working with your different string projects, you tend to work in the colors that you like. I have a hard time when I don't like my medium. I really have a hard time working the project if I don't like, for whatever reason, I find myself stuck with working paper that I don't like. Ugh, that is the longest project ever. So I tend to work with, do what makes me happy, and it tends to show in what I end up producing because it made me happy. So now you do that. We're going to now add our little white flower here, and we're going to set it down right here. Dip. There we go. Sound effects are for free. And then we'll grab our little itty bitty guy, the little one. We can't leave him out. He's like, where's me? Let me in, let me in. There we go. And picked up that little doppel of glue that's hardly visible. It's a miracle. Actually, I didn't even think about it. I'm also struggling looking because I'm using my computer glasses. So give me 1 second. Whoa, amazing. Look how much better. God. It would help sometimes if I have my act together. You'd be amazed. And I'm going to break my own rule. I'm going to add a little bit of glue right there just because we're almost done here with the gluing as I blow a flower away too. So we're now going to start with our little friend here in the corner. I grab my tweezers again. And we're just going to dip him down. Or her. We don't know. We don't know. It's an it. But I've decided it's a him. And we'll just put that down right there in the corner. And he doesn't want to budge, so I'm assuming that that's where he wants to be. So I'm going to call it good. Now I'm going to grab and move this one over a little bit. Now I'm going to grab my next size down. Whoops. Whoops. And we'll now put that one right next to it, a little bit straighter, because that's just the lay of this one. And then we're going to grab our little friend. So it's like, it's like the three bears. It's Mama Bear, Papa Bear, Mama Bear, Baby Bear. So it's, Papa Flower, Mama Flower, and then the little baby. And there we go. So we have, really, we have done all the paperwork for this card. And in reality, quite frankly, let me set this aside to let it dry. We have this card. In all honesty, we can mount the letters down without having done the embroidery work. And I'm okay with that. I hope that you guys are okay with it and are indulging me and allowing me to do, basically what's the really uber fun part, because I just really love paper. Although I really did enjoy making this card, and now I'm making a second one. But you know what? No, I'm going to take it back. We are going to embroider half of it, and then we'll let the letters. So I'm going to set the letters aside. I have made an executive decision. I have changed my mind. I'm allowed to do that. I'm a girl. Let me just clean my puddle, because if I clean it off like right now, it's so much easier. Although even when it dries, I mean, literally the glue will just peel off these mats. So I can't say enough of it. If you're working, depending on what you do, if you these silicone mats are great for gluing on. So now I'm going to set this aside, which means I'm tossing it to the floor. I'm going to ask you for a moment so that I can take a drink because I've been talking a lot. Oh, okay. And we'll start on probably the real reason you're here, which is the embroidery portion of this class. I already, before class, I cut off a length of floss, probably longer than I should have, because heaven forbid I should not bite off more than I can chew. But there you go. And in your kits, you will also have gotten a needle, and it's a size 24 needle. The other thing I included in there was just for, just because I included a bunch of glue dots, so that I realized, I don't know why. Oh, yes, I did. I know why I included them. My initial idea really was to just have you glue the panel straight flat down on the card. But then I decided, why not allow you to do what I did, which is to use foam tape. And I just have a big, huge roll of foam tape. But what I did use, and you know what, give me a second. I'm going to turn around for a moment. Hang in there with me, folks. I'm going to show you, okay. I included a roll of this. I grabbed the half-inch in your kit. Those of you that have a kit have a half-inch roll. But I bought this Crafter Square, what they call pop dot tape, and I got this at Dollar Tree. So I paid $1 for this. So for any type, when you want to use foam mounting tape, please do not pay anything more than $1. Do not go to Michael's. Not that I don't appreciate them. Do not go to Hobby Lobby. Not that I appreciate them either. You're going to pay a lot more for this. Go to both the 99-cent store and Dollar Tree. I'm not sure about the 99-cent store. They carry this brand, but they'll carry something. They'll carry it in a flat tape, and they also carry it like in little rectangular squares. But either will work. I'm just using my my roll because I have that big monstrous roll that somebody gave me, God only knows how long ago. And I've had it, so I'm finally getting around to using it. So now back to what we're really here for, which is the embroidery. I'm going to grab my floss, and what you're going to do is pull off three threads worth. I have tried to do this all at once, and I always end up with a hot mess of string. I have learned, no, do it once at a time, Mayra. Just do yourself that favor. Don't make a big mess. I really do. It never works out in my favor. It just always ends up really tangly. And I don't want that. I want it to be nice and flat and smooth and pretty. So now what you're going to do is we're going to grasp our threads, and I hope you guys can see. I'm trying to do this in the center so you can see. There we go. And my 3 threads. And we're going to grab them and just pull them all nice and smooth together. And then here comes the portion of the class that takes true skill. I've got to thread the needle, which is now why I'm very glad that I put on the right glasses. And holy cow, I did it on the first try, guys. I think I'm going to have to go buy a lottery ticket because that never happens. I can't do that on my own, let alone teaching it and on camera. So there we go. But that was it. That was your great skill for the day. It goes downhill from here, I promise you. What we're going to do, so here's your card. And you'll find it's a pretty stiff. This is Hobby Lobby, their heavyweight cardstock that I die cut already for you. But I'm going to try to bring it up close so you can see. You'll see it when you see your card. There are little lines here. I'm not sure if you can see it clearly, but there are little lines, and it's basically telling you the lay of the threads. There is no, right or wrong place really to start outside of that. The first hole you're going to work off of is the middle, because let me show you where'd my sample go. I buried where did I hide things? I hide things from myself notoriously. No, really, where did it go? Eek. I really hid it from myself, or it's on the floor, or it's, well, golly gee. How can it have disappeared? I'm working on it right here. Anyway, It will appear eventually. I will see it out of the corner of my eye or something. But we're going to start from this middle hole. But you're going to say, well, yeah, that's all great and wonderful, Mayra, but what's going to happen when you pull the other end of the thread all the way out, right? That's why you have a glue dot. So we're going to grab one of my handy dandy glue. Oh, you know what? You know where the sample is? It's right here. I told you I would find it. So this is only lightly put on because I actually separated it so that you guys could see the back of the card. And it includes my cat's DNA. All cards leave here with cat DNA on it. But that's the back of the card. But we're going to start from right here, from this bottom point. So what we do is we're going to grab one of our little handy dandy glue dots, not the one that's already funky. So let me just take these apart and take one of these off. And these two are glue dots, same brand as what you saw, the foam tape. These are also from Dollar Tree. So these are really good. So if you ever have the need for whatever, you're working on something else and you could use glue dots, Dollar Tree, don't spend more than that. They have, in fact, for anybody, if you're any kind of a crafter, even string, fiber actors, guys, go check out the Dollar Tree. They have seriously stepped up their game with what they have craft-wise and paints and all of that. I'm like, wow. But anyway, so I've laid down my tape my little glue dot, and then I'm just going to pull my thread out almost to the end. I'm going to really quickly trim so all my ends are even, except now that I pulled one out wrong, it's no longer even. And then I'm trying to glue myself to the card. Okay, let's do that again. There we go. So we're going to go ahead now. I'm going to pull it back through, and I'm just going to lay the thread down on the glue dot, and it's going to hold that in place. So now I can tug it, because what you want to do is it's literally in and out, in and out, in and out. So I'm just going to go start from that center hole to the farthest hole, and I have a little line there that tells me where I'm going. This is very wasteful of thread. Don't stress it. What I have given you is more than enough to finish one card. I can't tell you that it'll finish all three, but it will for sure finish one. So don't sweat it. Don't try to go from side to side and try to save string. Don't do it. You just want this to look pretty. And all we're going to do is just in and out. And I hold, so I pull with one hand, and with the other hand, I'm holding it taut. And we just go like that. And we're going to go through the entire card that way. I'm trying to do this quickly. And I'm going to tell you as a class right now, I only intend on doing 1/2 of the card in class, so one that we're not here all night. And I could take you through putting this the rest of the way together, because even with it only half done, I'm going to show you how to put down your foam. And once you do 1/2, you can do the rest. And then we will also adhere our letters down as well. So let me turn it. Okay, there we go. Now you can see this better. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to make it so I can see, but you can see too. Okay, and we just literally, that's all you're doing is inning and outing all across to do all of your little scallops, because that's what they are, basically, are scallops. So this is more like pretty just their work. So gosh, I wish I had people here in class. I'd be, at this point, this is the chitter chatter portion of your class, because this is not like really tremendously exciting work. So if nothing else, I can tell you a little bit more about myself. I do, as I said, I mean, I'm a scrapbooker. I do actually, my first love in paper craft is albums. I love to make photo albums. It's interesting with the start of the pandemic and wanting to do cards and being locked down, and people, I say where the pandemic is concerned, you really don't need to so much maybe work. Everyone thinks about, your introverts and the people who might might be, susceptible to depression and whatnot. And I go, yeah, I think that might be true, but I'm telling you what, man, the people who are super social, and I am one of those people, are going nuts in this lockdown kind of a situation. I am truly going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I'm far too social for this. Now I am done. I am at the end of the scallop. So now with the chitter chatter stops. I am done with the scallop. So this, you stop at right, you see that little joint? That's your last. Now we're going to go all the way across, and you're going back to the center of the next scallop. And again, this wastes thread like no one's business. But if you look here, it doesn't matter. It's not going to show up, I think. Does it not? Let me see. What did I do? Did I go all the way across? Or no, I take it back. I went backwards. And now I'm stuck. Let me take it back. I've slept since I made this card, so I'm open up again. Beg for your forgiveness. I'm actually going to go to this. So I'm going to start at the bottom of the scallop, and we're now going to work backwards. We're going to do backwards of what we've been doing. And now we were going to work from the outer edge to the inner edge. And just, again, go in and out. It'll still use up a lot of thread. We'll be loading up. We'll make it about halfway through, I think. Maybe 3/4 before I have to reload green thread, because I don't think I'm going to have enough. Although, by the same token, where did you come from? Why do we have a loose little piece of string? There we go. But when I did this card originally, I just pulled the thread out twice, just 2 lengths of the skein. But this time I decided to be brave, and I pulled out 3 and prayed that I wouldn't get tangled. And thus far, the gods of the strings have been with me, and I've not gotten tangled. And there we go. So it's just, again, we're going in the opposite direction, and it's just simple. It's just in and out. When I did this, I was watching TV, watching God only knows what, or probably YouTube's, because, my husband, who in my videos I refer to, he is commonly known as the Peanut Gallery, because we should all have names for our husbands, Phyllis Diller had Fang, and and I forget, there's another comedian that has a name for her. If you've ever heard of Jeannie Robertson, and she is hilarious, you must look her up on YouTube. Jeannie Robertson, and she's a Christian, but she is, truly, truly a funny lady. And she refers to her husband as left brain, because that's what he is. He's left brain. Creative people, I believe, we're right brain, and he is not. He is an engineer. So she refers to her husband as left brain. My husband is referred to as the Peanut Gallery, because where I am working at right now, where my crafting area is, I call it the crafting corner of madness, is here. It's a corner of the living room here in our duplex, and my husband is frequently on the couch there watching, we'll be watching YouTubes with me or whatever. And I might be doing a video depriving him of TV time, and will comment like the Peanut Gallery is wont to do. And so I have taken to referring, I'll be telling the Peanut Gallery to keep his comments to himself on camera. But that's what I've taken to calling him. So my husband is the Peanut Gallery. And there you go. That's a silly story for you. And see, this is what I told you. I'm barely making it halfway before I'm going to run out of thread, probably about another 2 or 3 pulls. And I'd rather, not go down to the last piece of thread before I try to cut it off. So I think maybe I'll get one more. Let's see. How brave do I want to be? Because sometimes if you go too short, then it's just not worth it. But yeah, that's good enough. So now I'm going to stop that. Keep holding it. At this point, I could let it loose for a moment. But now what I'm going to do is we're going to grab another little handy dandy glue dot. And I'm going to peel it off. It'll come off on the cellophane. But I am going to pull the string taut, because I'm going to also be pulling, because I'm literally laying this partially on the threads there and partially on the paper. I'm going to pull it off. I'm going to pull it off. And now now it really wants to stick. When I'm trying to, I just want it to lay flat. I don't want it to be added dimension. I'm going to now lay my thread in it, and I can now cut it off. I'm going to set my needle on myself, so I hopefully don't lose it in the next 30 seconds. I'm now going to grab the other 3 threads that I already had pulled through. I'm actually going to separate them all, because they're still a little bit tangled, and I want them to look smooth and pretty, because if you're going to this much effort on a card, you want to do a good job. It doesn't have to be, this is not, the Mona Lisa. Although by the same token, it doesn't matter what it is that you're doing. Name your art form. If you're a crocheter, if you're a knitter, if you just spin, if you just love to spin, you dye, you weave. I've seen card weaving classes taken, taught here. Whatever it is, understand that this is not just a craft. Don't ever think it. Don't ever term yourself as, oh, I'm just crafting. I know this is art, people. What we are doing is art, and art affects people. Whether you, because you make it and it's admired, because you make it and you gift it, you touch people's lives with your art. And that's the joy I take in both in my album making and in my card making, because I do not make to sell. I'm just not that bent. I tried it once and realized that I lost the joy of the art in the business, and the just in pushing through and caving to people's sometimes unreasonable demands. It just took the joy away of what I was doing. So I will not make to sell. I make to gift. I give what I make, I give away. So if you get something from me, I think of you highly enough to spend hours working on something to get it for you. Some of these cards, trust me, take much longer than you think. It would be much easier for me to run down the Hallmark, or the corner drugstore, or Walmart, or wherever, or the 99-cent store, because you can get a card there too. But either I make it or I don't give it. So even look at my brother-in-law who just had a birthday, he got a handmade card. He was like, "Ooh." I think he probably appreciated my lottery ticket more, especially because it won. Dude won $15. I'm like, "Hey, I got you a gift. You got a gift card. We gave him a Cheesecake Factory gift card, and he won $15." So it was like, I go, and I tease because I always blow this poor man. He's been married to my sister for close to 30 years. I always get his birthday wrong. I have known. I mean, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. I always get his birthday, and this time I go, "Laura, it's Saturday, right, or Sunday?" "Yeah, you're right." I go, "Oh my God, I got it right." So I go, "Okay, cool." So I go, "I'm gonna buy him a lottery ticket because it's a miracle that I remember he's gonna win." And he did, because we bought one too. We bought one of those scratchers, and his won and ours didn't. We didn't get a dime. So see, even when you give, that's, to me, it's like paying it forward. So he loved his card. He got a winning lottery ticket. He got a gift card to the Cheesecake Factory, so they can all go. And it's all good. And but he got it was he I tick he got tickled and was such on more than one. I could have just gone and buy an El Cheapo card, but I love giving cards, and people. I mean, I hear feedback, like I said, from my family on my husband's side, that they are all like, "Wow, you do this." I go, "Yeah." I go, and I make every year. I make our Christmas cards, and they are so looked forward to. Because and they tell me every year. I hear it. I go, "We're saving this. This is not being gotten rid of. We're going to keep it forever." I'm like, "Oh." Or even Steve and I, we've not been married that long. We're old folk that just got married a little over 2 years ago. We got married 8/18 of 18. So he picked it. The peanut gallery picked the date, because no matter which way you write it, it's 8/18/18. It's a, what they call it, a palindrome, I believe is the term. But I made our wedding invitations because I said, "Let's just go to Vegas." I've already been married once. He had never been married before. But he's like, "No, no, no. I need to do, I want to have a ceremony. I want to do this for my parents," and blah, 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 blah. And, 3/4 of the way through the wedding planning, because it went from, okay, we're just going to have, close family, some friends. And oh my gosh, I have just realized the camera moved. Please forgive me. I'm going to pick it back up. I am so sorry. I didn't catch that. I've had the jury rig my
Just
system.
moved.
So I am sorry about that. We had to do a jury rig for this, so please forgive me in that. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna go back under the camera. Anyway, back to the silly story. Uh, he was determined we have a wedding because he thought he owed that to his parents, and then about 3/4 of the way through, his parents like, "Oh no, but we elope. We don't have to do this." And I was the one that wanted to go to Vegas. So then he says, "Well, yeah, let's go to Vegas." And I go, "Oh no, dude." I go, it had already gotten out of control. It went from, like close family and friends, maybe 50 people, to a wedding list of 200. I go, I had already made 100 invitations. I'm like, "Oh no, this was your idea, Groomzilla. now we're having a wedding. And but it was great because I handcrafted all our things, our invitations. I mean, we got comments from Steve's parents' family, you know, from friends who were like saying, I go, oh no, we're never getting, this is amazing. We are never throwing this away. So, and my in-laws are, well, my father-in-law is no longer with us. And my mother-in-law, God love her. She's such a sweetheart. She's, you know, she's not, she'll be 92 this year. And I always say, I go, I sit in her presence and I can feel the cavities coming on. I go, she's just a sweet, sweet lady. And now I forgot what I was going to say. Good God, I'm a nut. I really did. My train of thought completely left. We were talking about making things, the wedding. Oh,
Room
but it's
tour.
their friends who were making these comments, and we're talking about elderly people. So I'm thinking in the back of my mind, these people are going to die, and their family's going to have to go through and throw away all of these handmade cards and the wedding invitation, and wondering why did they save this from this wedding? And there you go. I mean, I could understand me saving it. I did, but you know, it's just very it just amuses me. But I did enjoy it. I at the end, I'm glad we did it. We, you know, we got to share it with his family, and like I said, especially for him because my husband was we're both in our 50s. I'm actually really closing in on 60, and he had never been married. So many people, so many of his friends, even from high school, were so excited to see him finally getting married to a crackpot. And you know, there you go. I'm going to stop it right now again, rather than now. Let me try it. I don't know. Shall we? No, because I have to come back over. Let's grab another glue dot as I jabber away. This, see, I told you this comes together fairly quickly. Okay, so let me tear off another one. I don't want to use this one because you guys see it curled. It's let me show you. It's curled right here, and that's just going to add dimension, and I don't want to deal with it. So I'm going to grab another one. Let's move to where, because now that the camera moved, actually what I'm going to do is move it closer to me. So excuse me, don't get dizzy on me. There, that one. Now I can work where it's more comfortable for me too. I want you guys to see, but I don't necessarily, and my arms are only so long, even though I'm old and sometimes they're not long enough. There we go. So we put our dot down again. And I just burn it. This is what you call burnishing. I just really press it down because what I want is for this to come off easy. And then we'll now pull it taut, and I'm gonna lay my thread down. Try not to stick to it myself. We're going to cut that off. And now literally I am only, because this is all I have left. Oh, no. I can actually cut enough because after class, I'll do this later. I may sit here and watch something on the TV with the peanut gallery. And I will finish sewing this card up. But now again, like I said, we're going to separate. Now this is pristine thread. So now, of course, there we go. I muffled it, fluffled it enough. I'm going to pull off 3 threads out. 1, 2, 3. And we'll get our, now I'm going to get my ends all together if I can even grasp the thread. So that's 2 of them. And then that will try to not let them tangle because they want to. And I'm thanking God, I think the peanut gallery took the cats with them into the room, because otherwise, trust me, we would have a cat on this desk. You know, I keep them locked up in the room, our bedroom, during the day while I work, because we have an older cat, a tuxie, which is basically a black and white cat, for those of you who don't know. And her name is Squeaky. I have had her since she was a kitten. She was born to a cat we already have. So we have known her from day one. And she was the noisiest little thing ever in her litter. She would, and of course, when she was little, she squeaked because that's what it sounded like. And we were not destined to keep the litter. That was not the plan. And my husband back then said, no, don't name them. If you name them, they stay. And I go, well, I'm not naming them, but we got to call them something. So we called it Squeaky. Needless to say, all the kittens in the litter got names, and there was 4 of them, and they all stayed. Squeaky the cat is the one that we still have. where I used to live before here, we had a coyote problem, and my cats were indoor outdoor cats, and sadly they became, for lack of a better term, part of the circle of life. I hate coyotes. um and Squeaky is now 14 and we still have her, so hence never name your, if you have a litter and you plan on giving away, do not name the kittens. Trust me on this. But she is adorable. I love my Squeaky to death. I really truly do. But she's still noisy. She's still, at the end of the day, when I go and open the bedroom at 5 o'clock, she will be yelling at me. She is yelling at me, telling me, why have I kept her locked in the room all day long? She doesn't appreciate it. But she's also a clever cat, I will let you know. And she will, she's figured out my husband, who works, and he's a swing shift worker. And she has figured out, if she asks to be let out, we have a sliding glass door in the master bedroom. If she, what she'll do is she will meow and meow and meow. And after she gets the treats, because that's her initial meow, is to be given her treats. Then once she's given her treats, she'll meow at the slider to be allowed out. And he didn't realize this, but I have since informed him, but now we just put up with it. She will meow at him at the slider to be let out. And then she saunters from the back patio across the yard here to the, what we call the front patio. We have a detached garage, so there's a covered patio in between. And then she'll start meowing at the slider here to be let in, because she's smart. Never underestimate the evil intelligence of a cat. And then then she'll squeak at this one for us to let her in. And of course, we are obedient humans, because as I have a basset hound here too, Bo the basset hound, or Beauregard the basset hound. And dogs have masters. Cats have servants. And Squeaky has her servants very well trained. So Squeaky knows that we will get up and open up the slider and then let her in here. And she will usually, for at least a while, hang out quietly, fine, on the couch, or she'll meow to be fed, because she assumes that I don't know that she's gotten treats. But we do feed her a half a can of food in the late morning. I will feed her, and she will hang. But at some point, I know it happens. She's bound to do it. She will come and she will want to, particularly about the time a phone call rings, because again, I work customer service here at home. And I swear she lays in wait for the phone to ring. It rings, and then I'll be talking. She'll come over, and it's like she jumps on the desk and wants to talk on the phone at the same time I do. Hence why we keep her in the bedroom. I mean, customers find it, amusing, but at the same time, poking, it's not necessarily professional. So, we do relinquish. Then, we'll finish the call, and then she's already on my desk. She comes, then I trap her. I grab her, I pick her up, and summarily evict her back to the bedroom. And then she'll meow at me annoyingly, like, this is not what I wanted to do. And I go, I know, but you're stuck here till 5 o'clock, so deal with it. And this occurs daily in this house. The back and forth, she wants to come out, we put her in. She tries to outsmart, but usually the jig is up when my husband goes to work, because then, by then she's done this trip, and then he just closes the door, and she's stuck with her friend, our other cat, who is Elvis. He's a gray and white tabby mix. And he was not the cat that meant to be. We had wanted actually to adopt a second cat, but we were going to get an older cat, because Squeaky is an older cat. And my son-in-law showed up with him and said, well, this turned up at a friend of mine's apartment. The apartment stray had this litter, and he was the last one left, the runt. And I knew you wanted another cat, so here we go, a kitten. And he's adorable. He truly, truly is. He's, a teenager now. He's a year old. But yeah, Squeaky says, I am too old for this. Elvis wants to play, and she's like, yeah, no, I'm not a player. We're not having any of this. I am too old for all of your shenanigans. Go away. And sometimes he doesn't take the hint politely. You hear this, and that's Squeaky telling him, laying down the law, and says, no, really, I was serious. Okay, so now we finish, while I've been sitting here chattering away. We've got the green portion of this card done. So now we're going to turn around. I'm going to take actually, no, I'm just going to grab another needle, I think. Let me see, because I had the pack right here. But I can't find anything on this desk, so I might be unsuccessful in that endeavor. But oh no, I have another pack here. So I'm just going to grab another needle and not unthread this one, because I'll use it for the other side. But I'm going to go ahead and create and just grab out another 3 pulls of this and cut it off. And we're going to do the same thing. Where once again, I'm going to pull 3 threads out, because now we're going to do all of this. This will take a little longer because we're, you know, almost like doing double the work that we did here on this side. So this will take a little bit longer. And this is something I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not used to doing, because normally in the portion like this, when I'm doing a YouTube video, I will do it on video. But what I do is I will, you know, I will explain what I'm going to do, and then I stop the video, and then I immediately start it back up. And then I will throw something on the TV and do something, you know, do this and just, or talk to whoever's around here or whatever, because what I ultimately end up doing is I will then, when I'm done with that segment, I will throw it into my video editor. I will speed it up about 10 times to a more reasonable time, because if you're doing YouTube, the ideal length of a YouTube is about 30 minutes. So I will take, like, you know, half an hour work and render it into 5 minutes, or 10, you know, 5 minutes usually. But that way they just, it's lightning. Don't we all wish that we did that? I'll put a little bit of music to it. And there you go. They don't see me doing all of this live. So I'm not used to doing something like this kind of work in live, you know, where you see the whole thing and I'm entertaining you at the same time. There we go. It wanted to tangle there, and I'm going to go ahead and, while I'm at it, cut those ends. And now I'm going to very quickly, and mind you, oh wait, I haven't threaded my needle. I'm like, where's the needles? Because I haven't threaded it. I truly am special. There we go. Let's set this aside. And we're going to grab our ends. And let's see, because I've been doing pretty good. First try, and let's see if I can do it again. I did. Woohoo! Yay me. I'm just going to pull it through. And we'll leave, that's enough of a tail. Now what I have to do real quick is, now see there's one there, is decide where I'm going to put my glue dot. Where do I want to start? I think I'm going to start, I could start from the edge. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take my glue dot. Well, I try not to swallow the needle I have in my mouth. That would be bad. It could be painful. There we go. I'm going to take it out of my mouth, and there we go, before I stab myself. For I am special and talented in those ways. We're going to lay down our glue dot. And I want to keep it flat, but I'm not worried, because literally once I get done with this, we're going to literally be laying foam. Oh, look, it's stuck here. Hello. Foam tape right over it. So let me just set this aside. I took this card apart specifically because my evil plan intentionally was to have had a second one already all embroidered up with you. And quite honestly, such are the plans of Mice and Mayra. What I intend on doing and what ends up in the reality happening are two different things. And it was just a crazy week, and it just didn't happen. And there you go. So I have this stuff called undo, and I just unglued it. And I unglued it right before class so you could see what the back of it looks. So now, if you saw it, I should have stopped and explained. I obviously put my glue dot down. Oops, you can't see it. So I really should have explained. So I put my glue dot down. I laid it down here. I pulled it right through. So let me back out. Hang on. Let's do this backwards. So we're going to do this. Let me do that. Let me show this so you guys can see. I've not been paying attention to what I'm doing, but I've been watching the camera. And for that, I apologize. So I just laid my thread down, and now you see me because the camera came untaped. I've had the jury rig this. All righty, you're going to stay because I will it so. Okay, so we're going to come back here. Sorry about that. And I just pulled it through that first hole. And we'll tangle it there just for good measure. There we go. Okay, so now we're here. So now we're on top. We've started in that first hole. Let me hold it a little bit closer so you can see. And then I'm just going to go into the center. And literally, and it doesn't matter which way you go, but I'm going to choose to do this way. We're going to do 1/2 all the way or, one in one, out the other, just, very quickly. Going to do that. Whoops. And we're going to try not to have the needle fall out every time. We'll be here till, doomsday. I'm going to do that one more time. I'm not going to worry because now when I pull it through, it'll pull it taut. There we go. And then we'll just go through in and out very quickly. And I'm stopping for just for a hot second because what we're going to do now is, we would normally go to this hole. I ain't gonna do that. I'm going to go to this hole on the opposite side. And then I'm going to come back into the middle. And then go back in and out again in the same way. Because what we're going to do is we want to end at that point, which puts us closest to the next square or diamond, whatever you want to call it. But that way it saves us a little. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, again, like I said, you have plenty of thread to finish at least one card. And it's not like DMC floss is that expensive that if you run out, you can't run and get some more unless you live in the middle of nowhere. And then I'm going to beg your forgiveness. I'm sorry. But there you go. So now I went to the middle, and had I done this intelligently, I would have done it backwards. And I still can, but that involves me trying to back out of this hole. And I don't care. I'm just going to come across, and now I'm going to start in that opening the, I don't know what you want to call it, the hole. There we go. The hole sounds good. And we're now going to just do this again. We're going to go in and out, and I'm trying to remember how I did this because I've slept since I did this, and I know there was a way I did this, and I think it's going to involve me going backwards at some point, backing out of this. I don't think so. I'm going to figure this out in a minute. And if not, because what I want to do is ultimately end up on that end. So somewhere I'm going to have to stretch, and we'll figure that out in a second. But meanwhile, we're just going to do our in and out, in and out. At the end of the day, quite honestly, guys, there's no wrong way of doing this. It's just, and I remember I figured this out, but it took me like at least one diamond to figure out how I was going to do that. And actually, I just did. Now I'm going to stop here at this hole. Now I'm going to go, since I have to go, no matter what, I'm going to go, I'm crossing back and forth on here, as you see. I'm going to go and come back and start here. And now I'm going to finish the other half of the far side of the diamond or square, however you wish to call it. And we'll just do that. So we're going to go in and out all the way around. And right now it's okay. It's going to start when you look at, if you're doing that, when you do this, you will find that it's going to get, that hole is going to get tight. It will start getting a little bit tight, but we're going to persevere and make it do what we want anyway. And there is another little piece of thread that it's been picked up by the needle. So let me just do this. So I stopped picking up those little pieces, for they are annoying. And now I'm just going to continue now going in and out for the next part, the rest of this, for this half of the card again, or the square on this diamond. So let me go ahead and do that. And see, now it's starting, I could feel it. It is starting to get tight in that hole, because while it was easy when we're doing just one scallop, and now we're doing this whole square with 3 threads. And I probably could have done it with 2, but I thought I did one as a sample, and I did one with 3 threads and then one with 2, and I liked how 3 threads look. So I've stopped for a second. I've stopped my yammering, and now instead of going to this one, I'm going to come back and start the bottom corner here, the last corner. So I skip a bit, and now I'm going to fill in that square so that ultimately I'm somewhat, I'll be closer, even from here, because I'll always end up in the center. I'll still be closer here to the next one than from here to the next one. And I also want to make sure that that thread isn't visible if I cross with the holes, and from here it won't be. So that is my other goal, is that you not see. And you know, your back doesn't have to be like as beautiful as your front, but actually when you look at it, it looks pretty nice. It actually really does look nice. And supposedly that was the sign of a true, you know, a needle worker, is that the backside of their embroidery looked as beautiful as the front. Personally, I think that's insanity. And I used to embroider way back, you know, in another lifetime, you know, when I was young in a galaxy far, far away. And no, that wasn't me. So now I finished, I came to the center, and now I'm going to pick right up in the next square. And we're going to go ahead and do and glue and do this. We're just going to now repeat again. We're going to do our little in and out, back and forth on this half. We're probably going to be, I don't think we're going to get through a third one. I'm pretty sure I'm going to run out of thread by the end of this one, if not in the middle. I could be wrong. We'll see, because I can't remember, quite honestly. I made this card like a month ago. Probably longer. I just made this because I wanted to, and then the class came up and I'm like, ooh, let's do this. So we will do that. I actually can't. I'm gonna stop it. I am gonna go all the way to the point just because I want to. And then now I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna come back, pick up here. Hopefully you can see that. And now we will pick up the other half, just like we did the first time. And this is, you know, the one thing I like about needlework when I am in my medieval group, I am usually doing something, you know, where it does involve either the needle or what I do, because I do crochet. I do just enough crochet that I can make embellishments for scrapbooking. You will see me crocheting butterflies. I'll be crocheting flowers, just things that I can include on cards or on albums. So I just do enough needlework to make what I really love to do happen. Now I'm going to come back. Remember how I did it the last time? I come back now to the bottom of the opposite side, and then we'll just come right back in and fill it in. And it comes together, you know, very, very quickly. You don't have to be, you know, it's mindless, you know, very zen. It's what I like. It's very, very zen. It's why I like what we call in term in scrapbooking fussy cutting. And fussy cutting is where we're cutting out intricate little things. I'll find something out of a paper. Like for those who did decoupage or back in the day, scrapbooking before we had all these fancy tools. And I used to do it. My daughters were little. I used to cut out I would save wrapping paper from their birthdays. And then I would cut out the different things from the wrapping paper and put that in their albums. And I didn't realize that back then it's called, what you're doing there is fussy cutting. So I was scrapbooking way before I knew that scrapbooking was a thing. Go figure. But I do like fussy cutting. It can be annoying sometimes because it is time consuming, but can also be very zen. So if I can get away with it, I'm sitting somewhere, I will be, you know, I'll save some stuff that I need to cut out, that intricate cutting, and I will do that. I will sit there and just and fussy cut. I recall once I used to be in my SCA group, I used to be the seneschal of my barony, which means in real people's terms, if you belong to a club, I was the club president. And I was at, whoops, what was I thinking? There I am. So this is what happens when you talk. I was at a privy council, which is, it's what happens the day after a crown tourney, which is where fighters fight and to become the new king and his consort, the queen. I knew I felt a knot. And I was working at that time on an album for my nephew for a fundraiser for his school. and I was doing some edging on something, but I can't remember why. But I was sitting next to a friend, well, just listening in to the privy count, to the meeting, and I'm sitting there sanding paper because the edges were rough, and I was just trying to smooth them off. And this person, Giles, looks at me and says, "I don't think I have ever seen somebody sand paper." I go, "Yeah, it's a scrapbooking thing. It is. I go, this is an album for a fundraiser, so I'm making this, so I want it to be perfect." It ultimately, it did sell. Actually, this album sold for several $100s. I was very pleased with that. So I did my nephew a solid for his fundraiser with this album that I did. One of those few times that I did make out an album for money. I have sold one album, and everything else I have gifted. And I'll take it. There's one other person I've made an album to sell, and that was for a coworker. And he asked me for two, and they were for his family, were for his sister-in-law, and I forget who else. And both these people actually sent me lovely, lovely thank you cards, even though I've been paid for it. But I did them for him because he was a friend, and he said, and I go, "Look, I'm only, I think I charged him like $100 for each of these, which was way under the labor, but I liked it." And I go, "I'll do this for you, Terry, because it's for family." So I normally do not make the sell, but I did, and it was appreciated, and I appreciated that it was appreciated. So that was cool. But that's been like 5 years. So that's the last time I sold anything I made. The last album I actually finished was earlier this year for the daughter of my cousin who got married, and I made them their wedding album, and it became like, it was like the Frankenstein of albums. It was ended up being a bigger project than I had envisioned, and ultimately it became two albums, and the second album, so it was like Franken album, went to my cousin himself. It ended up being too much for one, so I made two, and then I gave it to his wife and him for them to put pictures from their daughter's wedding. So I really ended up pleased. They were all just, oh my gosh. And it was one of those things that the project came together because I found paper that matched identically the theme of the wedding. It was just one of these things. It's like, wow. And this was right at I finished it. When did I give it to him? In October, something like that, right before Chris. No, she was here in October. That's when she came. And I hand delivered it to her. I go, "I'm not mailing this. You have got to come and get it." And she's a bit of a Disney fanatic, so she came here to do downtown Disney. That's the only portion of the resort here that's open in California. And she was like, "Wow." But I told her, I go, "I'm finishing off the other half." I go, "If you want, you can have it, and you have volume 1 and volume 2, or if you want, I can give it to mom and dad." And she's like, "Oh no, yeah, do that." So they got the other half of this just Franken album, as I call it, because it just was. And I was working on this and trying to find the paper and everything in the midst of a pandemic. So at that time, Amazon was greatly my friend. Amazon, and I think Hobby Lobby online. I can't remember how many different places I had to collect the different bits and pieces of this paper collection and enough of it to make this album the way I wanted to do it, the way I envisioned right was. So for any one of you that thinks you go to ungodly lengths to get supplies for your vision, nope. Nope, nope, nope. You can't possibly be more obsessive than I am. I promise you on that. I am that level of insanity, hence why my moniker is the Mad Scrapper. And that just, I think, started, I don't know where it started. I do love Alice in Wonderland. I've always identified with the Mad Hatter. And even in my SCA in my medieval group, I play my persona I've adopted is that of a 13th century Spaniard. And I'm known within my group as the Mad Spaniard. And I kind of like started that, and it just has taken off. So it's like people call me Mad, and my name is Madalena, which is the medieval version of Magdalena. And I adopted that name basically in honor of my mother, because that is my mother's first name. It is also my middle name. But I found in doing research that form in about that time period. So, and I really am enamored of the period I play in Spain. It was a brief moment of enlightenment where the king of Spain was known as, his name was Alfonso. This is a little bit of history geekiness for you. And he was known as Alfonso. Historically, he's known as Alfonso el Sabio, which would be Alfonso the Wise. And he truly was. He was not a successful king in that he was ultimately deposed by he ended up having to abdicate. And now I've got a problem. You guys can see I have a problem. I have stuck the sticky dot right where I need to run the thread through. So I now have to move it so that I can actually get at the center. We're going to see how this works. This will be my first break in the make it flat always rule. And that wasn't enough. I think I'm going to have to literally, I have to pull out and we're going to see. This is going to backfire me hugely. Let's see, here you go. This is, I don't know how much of this is a mistake and how much of it is an opportunity for me to figure. Now I got to figure out which is, I got to pull this backwards out. So I got to figure out where did this come from? Oh my goodness. Well, here you go, guys. If you make the mistake, I told you, there's not a mistake that you're going to make that I'm not going to do first because I am an overachiever. But I have to make this good because what I'm doing is I'm gunking up my needle. So let's see if I can, there we go. Okay, there we go. I think I now uncovered that center hole enough. There we go. That I can carry on. I can now soldier on. But there you go. This is why you don't necessarily do this and talk at the same time. Because you will do silly things like this. There we go. Okay, so we're good. I will now carry on. But I was giving you the history of my, oh yeah, and 13th century Spain, Alfonso the Wise, or Sabio, was a king who thought ahead of his time. And back in those days, Spain, it was right after Spain had reunified. I'm going to clean off, there's some gunkiness still. And because Spain was occupied by the Moors for 800 years. And that was a rather bitter time for them. So they had just reunified, but Alfonso, again, thought ahead of his time, and he included in his court, because generally, you know, the Spanish only wanted to be friends with the Spanish. They, as far as anybody else, they didn't like anybody else, which included the Jews and Moors. But he wanted the most enlightened, the most intelligent, the most talented people available, and he wasn't tremendously picky if it was a Spaniard, if it was a Moor, if it was somebody of Jew, somebody Jewish. He wanted them there, so he incorporated all of them in his court. Well, that didn't sit very pretty with the rest of the Spaniards, and on top of that, horror of horrors, he chose Castilian, the Spanish Castilian, to be the language of learning, because up until then, back in medieval times, you have to understand the language of the learned was Latin. Everything, the Bible was in Latin, everything was written in Latin. So if you wanted to read, it was not just that you needed to learn how to read, you needed to learn how to read Latin. So he wanted to make books and everything available to everyone, to the masses. So we had them all written in Castilian, in Spanish. And that was a horrifying notion. Just an absolutely, you know, you can't do that. To us, it's like, really? And ultimately, it cost him his throne. His son, you know, deposed him and took over. And I can't remember now if Alfonso ended up in, I don't think he ended up in prison, but just, you know, died not being the king anymore. But there is a lot that came out of his time as king. There are two great, wonderful books. The Alfonso's Book of Games, which is basically about chess and backgammon. And then the Cantigas de Santa Maria, which is just an amazing, amazing songbook, basically a choral for church music. Just amazing, with incredible illuminations, which is why I have chosen that period, because I could find I can document the clothing of that time out of these two manuscripts. And then many of the laws of that he enacted back then still carry into modern day law, even here in the United States. And to the point that if you go to the Supreme Court, if you ever visit the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., on the front of the Supreme Court are, I believe, 12 of the greatest lawmakers in history. And one of those whose statue is there, there's a statue of Alfonso the Wise. So I'm very enamored of this very, short period in Spanish history where they seem to be enlightened. And then it all went to heck after that. I tell people, especially like I don't care for later history, Spain, as in the time of Ferdinand and Isabella, when they pretty much ejected anybody who knew how to handle money, which were the Jews, anybody with of learning and intelligentsia, which were for the most part the Moors. They got rid of them all. Just said, you need to leave. You need to leave now. They left, and mind you, a great reason for that was because, especially with the Jews, is because they were in the hawk to their eyeballs to the Jews. So, what is the fastest way to get rid of the debt? Get rid of the Jews. Sad but true. But I say, yeah, they did that, and then one wonders why 100 years later the British kicked their butts when the Spanish Armada came to go invade England. I wonder why. Well, there you go. Pride goeth before the fall. And there is historical minutia that you probably don't care about. But I have to talk about something because, this becomes rather mindless. I could sit here and for the next 15 minutes explain in and out. Or we can, I can chit chat about, crazy little things. Like now I'm trying to think of what are we going to talk about next? I mean, I've talked about, string, and how at least in the very least here I've combined both, a bit of stringiness with my love of doing things with paper, and how I know this all didn't this all start with us talking about, how what we do is art, and how no matter how small our art can affect and touch people. So that's what I love at the very least. Again, about what I do with with the cards I make. They're always, oh my gosh, they're so appreciative. There, people are just like, oh my gosh, really? Whoa! It's just very cool. I have done card swaps. People get all excited over what I have done. What I have made. It's fun when I do YouTubes and people comment and say, "Oh my gosh, this is so wonderful." And it's not. I'm not saying it to ring my to ring my bell or think I'm all that in a bag of chips. But I put things together and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, okay, let me just slap. I consider it just slapped together. And somebody would say, oh my gosh, you have so inspired me. I'm not going to go run off and do blah 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 blah. Yeah, and that makes my day. Stuff like that. I'm like, yay, that this is why I do. I share in hopes that somebody else gets something out of it. I had one comment not too long ago, and somebody wrote, I came here for the craft. I stayed for the comedy, because I tend to be pretty silly on online. It's it never fails. Some projects go far, far. I mean, just hysterically, Three Stooges wrong. And you're just like, I go, guys, I cannot make this up. This is live. This is like, and I tend to leave things in. I do not edit out mistakes. I leave it in because I pride myself in keeping it real. And I go, I'm not going to be the one that you get this really pretty video that's all perfect so that you think that they didn't make mistakes or struggle or whatever. You're going to see, because I believe, and letting that people should know that it's not like I'm the master, but that it's okay. Everybody struggles. Just because they don't show it doesn't mean that they're not furiously, trying to salvage the sinking ship. This was once explained to me. Let me give it a second. I'm gonna let my thread spin. By a friend when I was running a very large event. He says the trick to running an event is that you are like the swan on the ocean. People are at the event if you're running, and they're having a great time, and they see how everything is just coming together and everything's perfect as it's supposed to be. There, and so you are like the swan gliding across the across the water, on a pond or a duck. What they do not see is under the water you're furiously pedaling, just trying to stay afloat and trying to keep things together. They just see the perfection. They just see that it's all great, and that's okay. That's what you want them to see, and that's true. But I'm okay with people seeing. I want people to know that, hey, I'm a real person here. I am not, this is, I'm not a professional. I do not have 400,000 followers, and trust me, there are scrapbookers out there that are rock stars that do that. Have 20,000. I can't even fathom that. I have several hundred, and I'm like all ecstatic, happy, skippy. But I like that people keep coming back to watch what I do. Not necessarily, it's always not always project directed. Sometimes, my videos that get a lot of views are the ones where I've gone shopping. I'll go to Tuesday morning and tour the store with the camera and then show off everything I bought. That's what I did yesterday from Dollar Tree. The video I posted yesterday was for me showing people, look, guys, really seriously, y'all need to get over here to Dollar Tree because they are stepping up their game as far as craft is concerned. It's like, whoa. So I did that. I haven't checked. Today was just an insanely busy day with work, so I have no idea how that went. And we're almost done. I'm not going to try to carry over into the next one. I would rather put, actually I can put the dot, I can put the dot right there because I'm not coming back to revisit that spot. We're not going to make that mistake again. I'll just make a new one. I'll make a different one. That's what I always say. I'm not going to do that again. I'll do something new. But I'm going to put down another glue dot right there. I'm just going to put it right there because it's transparent. It's not going to show from the front anyway. And I'm going to put that thread, what falls in between the holes, so it's still not visible. I'm going to cut it off. And now I actually do have to grab more. So let me pull out 1, 2, 3. Even though I don't need that much to finish, but I do have the other card, the other half to finish. And we're not going to finish the other half. I'm going to go ahead and lay down most of, actually, no, we're going to go in. Now that I have embroidered, we're going to go in and put the letters down because you do need to know how to do that. And I will then show you how to put the foam in on one half of the card. Actually, a little bit more than one half, because once you know how to put the foam on this half, you can do it to the other half. You can duplicate it. You don't need to see me embroider this whole card. We will be here until doomsday. And we all have the other things to do before the world ends and death takes us. So let me put those two together. I do, I want to retire, man. I want to go and snowbird, and my retirement plans, or my husband's and mine, the Peanut Gallery and I, our retirement plans involve a truck and a trailer. We have taken to binge watching this show on, I forget what channel it is. I don't even know what it is, but it's called RV Living, I think, and it's basically like House Hunters International or House Hunters, but people are hunting for an RV. So we are seeing what's out there and getting an idea and dreaming, because it's cheap to dream. It's what you do, and we do have a nest egg. We are pretty far along into being able to make that dream a reality. So it's all about timing. And right now, needless to say, nobody's going anywhere. We're not traveling. So it we now kind of have, additional time to dream. But the dream is we're going to snowbird. We will be gone travel at least 6 months out of the year. There is a whole lot of the United States and Canada to be seen. So that's our dream. We are going to travel all over until we are too old to travel. And then we will figure out where we're going to park and get a rocking chair. We'll figure out which child, will look after us in our dotage, because I always said my goal in life, I told this to my daughters. Steve has no children, so it's just my daughters. My goal is to live to be old enough to be a problem to you guys. Not really, that's not my intent, but I mean, regardless, we're Latino and we take care of our old folk. We look after my Steve's mother and my mother lives with my sister, but I'm very equal. I try to help her out and take her, on the weekends at the very least. When my father's been passed away now 10 years, and he had Alzheimer's, and he lived with me. My parents were divorced when we were teenagers, and it was rough. I won't lie to you. Alzheimer's is a horrible disease, and it just, it just is. I don't wish that on my worst enemy. But having said that, I was the primary caregiver, but my sister, God love her, and I can never, ever, ever thank her enough. Never turned me down if I needed to say, hey, I would like to go here or do that, or we want to go on vacation, or I have, like when I was really active in my medieval group, we're going to do this on the weekend. She never, ever, ever once turned me down. And I cannot imagine that there had possibly been one of those times that she didn't have plans to, but she never turned me down. She would, in fact, because my dad, he was a bit of a gambler, and he would before he had the strokes and before he developed the dementia, would go every Tuesday. He would go to church. That's what he said. Church was that he would go to Casino Morongo and be there for pretty much 8 hours. He'd come back in the late afternoon, and what he would do all day was play the penny slots. That was his thing. So my sister would periodically just come and get him and say, okay, I'm gonna take him to the casino. She would take my dad, even, in his dementia, and he would go, and she would take him to Casino Morongo so he could still go and play the penny slots. God love my sister. So I always tell her, I can never ever thank you enough for that. So I try to pay it forward to her. I'm backing out because I'm changing my mind in the direction I want to go with this. So give me 1 second. But I can never ever thank her enough for what she did for her part, so that I could still, we could both together, take care of my dad until he passed away. And there we go. So I'm starting in the middle. So I want you guys to see I came across, and I'm starting here in the middle so I can come back and lay the thread down in that same blue dot. And so I've been I want to say I'm very fortunate. So by the same token, I try to help her with my mom, and she's a little bit more needier. Steve's mother is spry as all get out. She just amazes me. She belongs to this little group of friends that they've known each other for 30 or more years. I mean, just, met during, whatever points in life. And they get together, and one of them was the ringleader, which is my mother-in-law, Nan's next door neighbor, Annalise. I will not say what she calls them all, what the group name is. I will just say that she calls them and it starts with a B, and we'll leave that because we try to keep it clean here. Hilarious. These 80-year-old women who, before the pandemic broke out, they would go once a week. They'd get together. They'd have a little potluck at whomever's house, for lunch. They would play Rummy Cube. And then at 5 o'clock, they would call it quits. And then they would all, get into either somebody's car or call an Uber. Remember, we're talking, my mother-in-law is the oldest one, so at 90. So they're all in their 80s. All these little 80-year-old biddies would then go down to downtown Fullerton, which is right down the hill from where my mother-in-law lives, because they all live pretty much the same neighborhood together. And they go do happy hour together. Happy hour, get a drink, and then go get a bite to eat. 80 and 90 and one 90-year-old woman. It tickles me pink. These ladies are hilarious, but I love it. When Steve and I got married, they all banded together and got us a very sizable gift card. And the card was signed, and Annalise, I guess, is the one that signed it for all of them, but the card came signed from the bees. I had that card. I could not throw it away, other than because I'm a pack rat. But it just was so hilarious. These little old ladies. So I hope, my goal in life is to be my mother-in-law when I grow old. And to do that, I tell my daughters, I go, yes, at some point, I'm sure we won't be able to live by ourselves, but I'm going to try really not to be a problem and live a life so that you guys can have a life too. And there, guys, as I've chattered and prattled away, we have now finished at least embroidering half the card. And that's all really I'm planning on doing. This is all I plan on doing for this class. So we've got half of it done. You will obviously, if you, I mean, you can literally do it in the same order I am doing it. You might find it a little bit difficult, but I want to glue, and I may make this difficult. I can't speak to it until I do it myself, but I want to glue the letters down for you. I want you guys to see how to do that so that you can go forth and then just put your card together. Okay, so now give me 1 second. I need another sip. I have been talking far too long and far too much. Oh, and I just remembered actually why I needed the glue. I gave you guys the glue dots, so I will show you in a moment. Let me grab my letters, which are now buried in this pile of stuff I've shoved off here in the corner of my desk. Let's put away these. You know what? I have a pile of these. Let me just grab them a second, and let's toss them into my trash or the floor, whichever works. Okay, so now we're going to lay these out. And really, this is all about eyeballing it. I mean, you can get crazy about this and grab a ruler and a pencil and mark things out. And I only say this because, of course, I have never done that. Not ever once have I gotten really crazy about centering something to the point that I have pencil marks and, you know, and a ruler and all of that insanity. Nope, nope, don't know what I'm talking about. If you believe that, I've got some prime swampland in Cuba that I need to offload. So we are just going to, literally, I'm just eyeballing this, and it really is to taste. What I do, in all honesty, is I decide how I actually set up the two edge ones. I decide how far I want them away from the edge, and that gives me the spacing, and then I just even out the spacing with the other two. So I'm looking at my sample here. I'm going to come down a little bit because you guys can't see it, and I'm going to come down and you guys can see my sample panel, kind of sort of my sample panel there. Actually, I can bring it still down and everything will still be visible. And what I keep seeing, and this is the only reason I keep coming, is that I see little fibers coming off of the paper. So I'm trying to pull these off. There we go. So anyway, we're going to come back and I am going to lay down my H and my S so they look even. And the good thing is that you don't see my fat head, at least from the camera, unless it decides to fall on my fat head. And then all bets are off. And you just kind of sort of, you just lay it down. Once I've got my edges more or less, I now spread the other two. It does not have to be perfect. I don't think anybody's going to take a ruler for this. And if they do, remember, I've given you permission to punch them in the nose and take your card back. And then you'll find another recipient, much more worthy of it than that terrible troll. Let me take these bother me, so I'm not going to throw these all away. I'm going to move all the extra flowers and the extra string. I'm going to now grab my silicone mat from the floor. We're going to bring it back because the same method I just showed you to glue down the other letters or glue the layers together is how we are going to glue these letters down to the card. And I'm going to now, yeah, you can see it good. I'm going to create another puddle if I can get this glue. It's gotten a bit thick, which is okay, which is exactly what you want. It sometimes makes it for a bit of a pain in the butt to get it out of the bottle, but this is exactly what you want. It's tacky, it's thick, because it doesn't have a lot of water in it, but you want it to be that way. Of course, now I've got glue all over my fingers, so give me a second. I'm rubbing it off. And now comes the part that always makes me twitch, and that is I got to lift them up one at a time and then lay them back down. So I'm going to grab, I don't think I put it down. And of course, now it rolls right over the glue. I couldn't have done that on purpose. Hang on, I've taken the glue off the bottle. I'm realizing I need a bigger puddle. It's not so much I need, I want. And I don't care. This glue, I'm not kidding you guys, it's wasted. This is cheap glue. I want to say this is like a $2 bottle of glue, which is why I suggested you use it, because it does the same effect as a more expensive bottle of glue. So I mean, you can use Aleene's, which everybody knows about Aleene's tacky glue. At least I think you do. That will work too. You can use that, but I think Elmer's, Elmer's Craft Bond is cheaper. And if you buy it at either like Joann's carries it, I'm pretty sure Hobby Lobby, Michael's, use a coupon. Never, ever, ever buy anything full on retail. Shame on you. Use a coupon. And especially Hobby Lobby, but remember, Hobby Lobby's coupons are going away. The 40% off coupon goes away Sunday. They will no longer have them. I am very sad. I have to run to Hobby Lobby tomorrow, and I don't know, on principle, buy something with the 40% off coupon, because they will be gone. And then it will only leave me Joann's. Okay, so now I'm going to commit. This is like marriage. Don't fear it. Do it. I'm going to lay my H down in my puddle of glue. I want it, unlike when I did the flowers or the layers that didn't have to be, this, I do want to make sure it has a good amount of glue. So now I will pick it up, and I am going to just commit, lay it down where I want, and kind of center it, top to bottom, and squish. And to set it down, and I think I see glue coming out. How much of it's a piece of, no, it is glue. So I'm going to use my little handy dandy ceramic tool to take that glue off. And now our H is down. So that's one letter down. Once you get one down, the rest kind of comes together fairly, easily, because then it's about lining them up. As long as you have them more or less spaced. So now we're going to grab the U. That's our next. And again, I'm going to make sure I picked up plenty of glue, because I can always swipe it off. And then I'm going to just line it up. And actually, I'm using the top is the best part, because it's easy to line up the little divots, whatever you want to call it, at the top. And then I'm just going to mush and commit and squash it down. And then hold it there for a minute, because it does want to unpeel. And I see like a little Gumaflachia glue there. So there, I just want it off my shiny gold, because I want my gold to shine. That's why I used it. And then I have a little piece of glue there. And I just wipe it on myself, because I can wash my hands. Problem solved. Crisis averted. There we go. So now we have HU. And I want to move it, because I realize can I? Let's see. That, okay, we're committed. Good, bad, or otherwise. There we go. And now I'm going to come with my G, but I want to pick up that little thready thing that I've been trying to pull off for minutes now. Okay. And now I'm going to come in over here and just go from a bit of fresh glue that I have there. And just press down. And I just want to make sure I have a generous amount of glue on this letter. And then I'm going to pick it up with my tweezers. And then just grab it better. And lay it down right about here. It is not going to be perfectly centered. And it might bug me. Let me see. It is going to be a little off center. I'm going to be honest with you. This one is going to be off center. And I will fix it. I don't know if I have the opportunity. Oh, yes, I did, because I can steal. I've got the fix for this guy. So this is just my personal, because it's going to bug me. So I'll tell you in a minute. But I got to get the S down. So I really do want the S. Let me add a little. No, I think I can pull it off with this glue. Lay my S down right there. And there we go. I am going to lay that down. Well, let's see. Because yes, there is off center. I hate when that happens. But we are going to make it right. And this, my friends, is why you do not glue down the flowers that I put on the inside of the card until last. So we will see how somehow if I can get that comment inserted in some shape, way, or form. I'll talk to the editors and or my host, my moderator, about getting that comment added in. Do not do the flowers first on the inside of the card. Do them last. And look, this one came unglued. Rude. Obviously, I was not generous enough with the glue here. So we're going to lay that down again. There we go. But what we're going to do to solve this dilemma, although I don't, yes, it bothers me. We are going to steal from Peter to pay Paul. Because again, remember what I said, there are no mistakes. There are only opportunities for creativity. I'm just opening this up here because I'm just going to put down what I know what I want to do. We're going to grab this little guy. And look, we're just going to break up the space right there by planting a flower that's going to look like it was there on purpose, even though it wasn't, even though it may not be perfect and be right, but it's going there because I will it so. And that's going to be my fix. That's what I'm deciding. That's how we're going to fix this situation. Where'd the little flower go? Where'd my little green guy go? Did I just pick it up? Oh, there he is. Okay. It's like, wow, where did he go? It's not the first time that something goes floating off my desk. And I do have the fan going on here because I'm a little hot. And because I'm of an age where I have my own personal weather system. Alrighty. And we are now gluing down that little flower. Let me move that little piece of thread wrapped.
Your camera slipped again.
Thank you. Sorry.
You're welcome. I wanted to let you get the flower glued together before I said anything.
I'm sorry, folks, for the technical difficulties. And there we go. Okay, so we got the little flower glued together, and we are now going to lay it down in the little, I'm going to find a fine little puddle of mud. Listen to me. It's a dirt. Not even dirt. Glue. Glue, Mayra. Glue. And I'm just going to plop that little flower right there. And I honestly, I like that better, even though it still leaves more space here. I don't care. That's my fix to it being off center. And now this portion of the letter laying down is done. So I'm going to pick up, I'm just moving all of this stuff because I just dumped the bag out. And of course, nothing moves easy on this mat. This mat grabs everything. Let me just wipe off the glue again. Because just because I leave it there, that means something will inevitably float there and land on it and then try to make itself a permanent piece of the real estate. Let me just wipe that off. Good enough. Okay, so now I'm going to close this up just like that. And there we go. That way the flowers don't float away. So now we have this panel ready to mount. Now, the reason you have the rest of these glue dots is because I didn't want you to go to the expense of having to buy double-sided tape when I could just hand you these glue dots. So I'm going to grab another one of the kits because I had to do a repair job on one of my cards. So I stole again for Peter to pay Paul. And we're going to grab this panel. What we're going to do now is, of course, I'm going to flip it over to the back side because there's a difference. There is no difference. It doesn't matter. Just determine that one of these sides is the back side of paper. What you're going to do, and I'm just going to take these apart, is we're just going to take our glue dots and just in the immediate, just put them down. You don't have to, again, and you just have to put down enough to hold the panel down. This does not need to survive the zombie apocalypse, my friends. It just needs to last long enough for the recipient to get enjoyment out of it. If I am not wrong, I can't remember if everybody got 2 or 3 packets of these, but you can do it with you know, one obviously almost completely gets used up with the embroidery portion of this. But now that I think about it, because there are still, I have 3 dots on this side here left, so I could have gone with 4. So I'm going to do it here. I'm going to go 1 on each edge, and then 2 here in the center. And we'll just more or less eyeball it close to the edge. One here, one here. We'll tear these off again. I think we can get away with just 1 here on this edge. Whoop. As I stick the dot to me. And we're going to try not to use that one. Let's see. Hopefully I can get away with it because it got funky and I don't like it. It bothers me. There's a good chance it would not even be noticeable, but it might be because this is the flat. This is going to get glued down flat onto your card front. Now you want to be careful and you want to make sure that that they stay flat. And when you glue this down, please do make sure you glued it to the front of your card, not the back. Not that I have ever done that. Nope, not me. I'm like Mary Poppins. I am practically perfect in every way. Great. Did I not tell you every mistake that you could possibly make? I've already made it. Oh no, wait, because one should be good at something. So I pulled off that glue dot over there prematurely. And I think if I still have a few here left. Yeah, I still have a few. So we'll put a couple in the middle. Oh my goodness. There we go. Sometimes I just don't want to tear off. One there. And one there. And now I'm going to locate my card front, wherever it went. There it was. Is this the one? Yep. This is our card. So there's the back of your card. So this is the front of your card. We're going to now put this down right in my actually no longer applies. I was telling Debbie that my front of my desk looked like a crime scene because I had tape laid down exactly where I knew my working space was going to be before we had to come up with plan B, and where my armature for my camera was going to work, because things never work out the way you want them to. And there you go. By the next class, trust me, it will be better. You guys are like my guinea pigs. I am so sorry for that. But now I'm removing, needless to say, obviously I'm removing all of the little cellophane wrap tops to all my little glue dots. And we're going to glue this down. Now, the one thing about the glue dots, and honestly, guys, if you want, you can use the craft glue to glue this down. It will give you just enough widget time. So I should have said that initially. You can, and here, wait, I forgot. Here's a trick. This is a scrapbooking trick. If you need, because with these glue dots, that once they put down, that's it. It's one and done. You can lift it off, but it takes a lot of painstaking prying, or you have to use undo, and it's just a pain in the neck. Or you do, this is a trick I learned from another scrapbooker, is you put a bit of glue on the dots, or whatever, or adhesive tape or foam. This works with foam as well. And what does it do? It gives you some play time so that you can center your card. So that's what I've done. I've made it so that the glue will, so between the two of them, you've got a really tight bond. I usually start from the top edge. And what I'm going to do is I align a corner, just one corner. And then I go across the other edge, and this one is not perfect. Even if it's a little smidgen is visible, that's okay. Don't make yourself crazy. I can do that for you. I've got that covered, okay? But there, so now I can press it down, and it's holding, but that glue, the wet glue, is giving me the time, those few seconds I need to see. Now it's adhered down perfectly, nearly perfectly centered. I mean, if you really look, you can see a little bit of an edge there, but you've really got to look for it. But there, this is now laid down. We are successful. Yay! Pat yourself on the back. I'll pat myself on the back. There we go. Done. Wait, but I saw a glue dot that shouldn't get thrown away. Yep, there we go. Because I'm a miser. Why, I don't know. It's not like these were so expensive. So now we've got this portion done. Now we need to take our foam tape, and I'm going to use my foam tape, but you will use what I gave you, which is the same. It's the same width. It's 1/2" tape, and this is why I took it off so that you can see what I more or less what I did. And then I will repair this. I actually would have put glue down on all of this and then glue it back down to my card again. But I'm going to grab my big roll, my big honkin' roll of tape, because I'm a masochist. And what I'm going to do, and this is how I cut. This is a trick I learned from another scrapbooker, for I too pay attention to other people in YouTube. That's how I learn half of what I know. I take it and I turn it sideways and then get close to the edge, because what you're trying to do is add some dimension just so it pops out. And I just snip, and then I lay it close to the embroidery, to the edge of the embroidery. You want to do this after you're done. I'm going to do this now, and even if I make it difficult, you know, what the heck, I'm not gonna stress this. So I've hopefully given you enough tape that you want to, you know, leave not too much of a gap. 3 strips, you know, it seems to be enough, but you want it, in other words, don't try to be chintzy and just go here and here, because what this will do is the middle will then kind of dip down, and it'll kind of sink, for lack of a better. It's like, you know, getting impatient with a souffle. You open the oven too soon, and boom, there it went. Or a cake. I think cakes do that too, don't they? Like, and of course, needless to say, I don't know, because I don't bake cakes. I can barely make cupcakes. Okay, guys, that's as good as it gets for me. And then now we're going to do the other one. So I laid in 3 pieces. And it's this exact tape I use now that I realize it, because this is old tape, which is probably why somebody gave it to me, because they probably had it forever and never used it. And we lay it down there. So obviously I didn't do a great job of centering it, but it's going to be okay. When I press it down, I can tell that I'm not going to have a sink, you know, or everywhere where it sinks. Now what I'm going to do is carefully, and this is what you're going to do with your tape, I'm going to square it off. So, you know, go ahead and sacrifice that, you know, whoops. No, but really square it off. Don't get sloppy like I just did. There we go. And you're just going to cut off little square sections. Not too big. Don't make it too small either. And you're going to put them right here, right on top of the thread of the on the scallops. And you're going to do that on each scallop. And you can eyeball the size. I could have made it a little bit bigger, but no, it's going to be okay. And you're going to put it down, but be a little bit more careful. I just barely, I called that really close. You want to put it as close to the edge of the scallop, but at the same token, you don't want it visible. So then we will lay it there, except, hang on, let me look. It's this, where is it? It's this one? It's this one. No, it's this one. Okay, no, you're fine. It almost looked, I just got lucky and I laid it down right, and you can't see it from the front. So you want to be careful about that. What you do not want is for the foam to be visible from the other side. Although fortunately, because this foam is almost the same color as the paper, it might not even be noticeable if you make a mistake. So but see, this works for me. Let me take it back. This works for me because this is tape that, you know, foam that's aged, but yours is going to be really stark white. So it might be noticeable. Like that one, I feel iffy about. So I'm going to take off. I'm just going to take a piece of it off. And then now go ahead and do it again. And then I'm going to repeat it here. And maybe I made that one too big too. Oops. And we're going to lay that down. Whoops. And we're going to lay that down right there. So this is what you're going to do on both sides. So what I did right here, you're going to do on the opposite side when you're done embroidering. What I'm going to go ahead is I'm going to fix this. So let me take a minute or 5. And maybe that's not my more genius idea, but let's see if I can take these off. Except I'm snagging threads. And let me see. Let's see if I can make this work without making a hot mess of things. So, because what I want to do is I'm going to leave these 2 there, and I'm just going to use glue. So let's take about 5 minutes. We're almost at the end of class, but this way I can show you exactly how to glue it down because we will repair mine. The class sample. So again, you guys are my guinea pigs. So again, see, so if nothing else, I'm showing you that this can be even a mistake, and I'm not going to care. It's hard to deal with that big roll, so I'm just going to cut a hank piece off and take my chances. And at me, and here we have the thread is loose. Because at that point, it didn't occur to me to use glue dots. I used little pieces of tape because I'm a dork. And there you go. Excuse me. And then we're going to add that there. And we're just going to put these down really. Just kind of like speed through this because you've already seen the handy-dandy free demonstration. We have that. All right, carry on. One more, that's it. I'm going to make that a little bit more narrow. And there we go. Now what I'm going to do is grab my card front. And where is my card front? The one for my card. It's this one. There we go. Okay. What you're going to do, needless to say, is, and first down is you're going to really want to press these down good. It's going to be more difficult because of the thread to burnish them, so you don't have to. And then what you're going to do then is you're going to take off all the tape on your foam. Now, if you want and you feel unsure, and it's not so much that I feel unsure, although it is not a bad idea. I'm just doing it because I have lost the glue on these, and I'll be darned if I'm going to try to peel it up. We'll be out here for another 10 minutes if I use undo to peel up these halves. So I'm going to be very generous on these strips with the wet glue, and it will still work for me. But I'm going to do the same trick that I just taught you guys to buy some time to center a piece, and that is I'm going to go at it. I'm going to add my wet glue, my tacky glue. As soon as I can get it, my goodness, this stuff is so thick, I keep forgetting to turn it. I'm out of the habit of turning my bottles upside down. But that's the trick. If you can just grab a cup or something and just have this turned down upside down all the time. And that way the glue will come right out. So I'm just putting a generous dollop of glue on each of the squares. Just enough to buy me time. Because like these, the new ones are pretty darn adhesive, so we're not worried. But here I have to be especially, come on, my pretty. I really am going to be generous with the glue because there's almost no adhesive left. There is none at all. I use my undo to lift this up. Go here, sorry. And I got very happy with the undo. And so I just destroyed the adhesiveness, which is okay. I was okay with that because I knew that this is what I could do. to fix the situation. So no harm, no foul. Again, no mistakes, just an opportunity for, you know, creativeness or ingenuity. Call it what you may. So I'm going to close my card. I don't know why I have it open, other than because I'm a dweeb. And we're going to turn it over. Here's the important part. Take a second, pay attention. Make sure that you've got not only the front of your card, obviously, but you know what is top and what is bottom. Because the last thing you want to do is do this card and then put hugs upside down. That would be a bad thing. And then all we're going to do is eyeball center. We all know how good I am at that. But that is really just about it. I think I've got it. I'm going to tilt it this way so that I can see better, but because it's crooked. And that's it. I'm committing. And that's what you're going to do. You are going to press it down. And there you have it. We are, for all intents and purposes, done with this card. The last thing, and as an artist, that you want to do, in my case, because I'm a scrapbooker, I have a lot of stamps. So I stamp all of my cards. This is my signature stamp. I'm going to make everything around me beautiful. That will be my life. You want to, you don't have to, I mean, you don't have to get a stamp, but at the very least, sign your card and date it, because this is your art. This is your work of art, and all artists sign their work. So this is, so you want to do that. You, this is your canvas. This is your art. Own it, so that the person who receives it knows that this was made by you. But there you have it. Thank you so very much for coming and hanging out with me and watching this. And if you have any questions, in the description is my email. Feel free to reach out to me. If you see this and you actually say, hey, I didn't get the kit, but I actually want one, feel free to reach out to me and I'll arrange to get one out to you, okay? But pretty much that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you so very much, you guys. Go out now and make beautiful things, be creative, and remember, we're all a little mad here. So in your case, just work the madness, okay? I will talk to you later. Thank you so much.